What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into TTP Sports, and it is another NHL trade deadline come and gone. And for the Flyers standpoint, we did talk about the other day with the Sean Walker trade and the Nick Sealer extension. So we'll probably still bring that point up, and just in case some of you guys did miss that video. It won't be the main topic surrounding this thing. It'll probably just be along the entire discussion as we move along here, and basically just recapping what Danny Briere did at this NHL trade deadline for, definitely I would say was a more energetic trade deadline than in years past. Definitely a lot of more bigger names were moved or just moves in general. I would say not in big succession, but there were some big trades and some shocking trades that, wasn't really expecting at the end of the day. And I think basically the last time when we did the Flyers recap last night over their huge win against the Florida Panthers last night, I think basically the major trade that was going on at that standpoint was the Jake Gensel trade to the Carolina Hurricanes. And I think that was the last trade when we ended off last night. And there definitely were some trades as, you get into the morning, you get into the afternoon, as you get closer and closer and closer towards that 3 p.m. deadline. And there are definitely some names that are interesting, and we'll definitely get into those in a little bit. But really, right now, I guess we could just focus on what Danny Briere has done basically for this NHL trade deadline. So we all know about the Sean Walker deal that happened a couple of days ago. You get the first round pick. It was a really good deal by Danny Briere. He got Ryan Johansson back in the pick, also traded a 5th round pick there as well to the Colorado Avalanche. And basically, I would say for these past 2 days, he definitely was trying to get a trade for Ryan Johansson in place, and he was willing to retain 50% of that salary. I guess teams just didn't really want to bite on Ryan Johansson, and he will be assigned to the AHL, and we'll see just where things go from there. I 100% do not expect him to be on the NHL roster at any point this rest of the season just because, him and Torts definitely did not mesh, because if you do remember, Ryan Johansson was on Columbus first when Torts got there, and Torts was, when he tried to, clean the house there in Columbus, Johansson was one of those guys that was traded away to get Seth Jones from the Nashville Predators. So definitely Torts and Johansson would not mix well in that locker room whatsoever. And then you get the Nick Sealer extension, and really since then, rumors were basically the Flyers were just maybe trying to add some depth to the rest of the roster for this playoff push, and that was really it from the standpoint. There were, they weren't shopping Scott Laughton. There definitely, I would assume there were some calls taken on Scott Laughton, and Danny Briere did say that in his post-deadline press conference that he had a couple of minutes ago. Right now we're doing this around 4 o'clock, this video. I'm probably going to be posting this a little bit later tonight, maybe closer towards the evening, around 6 or 7, just because I'm a little bit busier later in the night. So just get this, video put up now, and I'll have it for your guys. You're basically watching this around, between 6 and 7. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I'm just telling you when I'm posting this right now. This is basically directly after Danny Briere's press conference. So yeah, basically, for that press conference, really not much was stated that we already did not know. A lot of talks on how, certain guys would, that they added at the trade deadline would mesh in how they would work on this roster right now. And, he did bring up the Scott Laughton point, because Charlie O'Connor did bring up a fact about, how would you try to define what type of rebuild that you're doing. It is the culture the most important aspect of this quote unquote rebuild, basically, because there definitely are some people out there in the Flyers universe that are definitely confused on the aspect and confused on the messaging on what Danny Briere is trying to state for this rebuild. And yeah, Danny Briere did explain it. The culture definitely is the most important aspect that they are trying to fix. Torts was one of the major reasons why they brought Torts in, was to, clean out that locker room last season and try to find guys that can be leaders, and especially Scott Laughton was one of those guys last season. Without Sean Couturier there, Laughton was one of those major guys to step up and become a true leader in that locker room. And Danny Briere, they really valued that. Keith Jones and all that stuff, they really valued what Scott Laughton brought to the table in terms of that leadership, the way that he just brought himself to the locker room every day, how he just, went about his business. And they think that was really important to the locker room, and that's why they valued him so high, regardless of what he does on the ice, because he's a very versatile player, basically can move up and down the lineup whenever you need him to. That's the type of player Scott Laughton is. He's a very grindy player. He'll get into your face. He'll play hard. He'll give you 150% every time he's on the ice. And that is the type of player Scott Laughton is. And the Flyers, to themselves, really highly valued Scott Lawton, and they were not going to trade Scott Lawton unless a team just, called them and wowed Danny Briere with an offer that he just simply could not refuse. And to that extent, yes, I can respect that. Standing on your horse, not budging. This is what we want. This is what we're going to be asking for. And if you're not going to be giving it to us, oh, you're not getting Scott Lawton. I can respect that to an extent. I definitely can, because especially in previous Flyers regimes, there was just so many times where the Flyers probably got fleeced in a deal, or Chuck Fletcher, with his stupid trading app or something like that he brought up, how he calculates the value or something stupid like that Chuck Fletcher brought up. Funny, speaking of Chuck Fletcher too, he was on the TSN trade board people there, so it was very funny that Chuck Fletcher was there. I don't know why anyone would want his opinion on things, because he is not a good GM, but I stand corrected on that front. But that I just found very funny. But yeah, in terms of that and everything there, on standing your high ground and really valuing Lawton and what he brings for this team, in this club, in this locker room, and this culture and everything like that, I can respect that. Personally, I still would have traded Lawton, just because I feel like you don't get an offer like you do for Lawton, every single year. Yeah, yes, maybe things can change as the offseason comes around, but you did, you got a first round pick offered for Lawton in this past offseason, and you didn't budge. And I'm not sure what teams offered for Lawton at this trade deadline. I'm sure there was a team out there that did offer a first round pick for him. And personally, for me, I would have taken that any day of the week. But it is what it is at the end of the day. I'm not going to kill Danny for it, even though my personal thing is I would have traded Lawton. I still think overall this trade deadline was definitely a good trade deadline for Danny Briere, especially what he got in return for Sean Walker. And if you're looking at some of the other returns from some other players, like some players didn't even get first round picks. So the fact that you got a first round pick for Sean Walker, granted you also did have to take a contract in Rhino Hansen in return, but you still got a first round pick regardless. I think that was a win-win right there for Danny Briere. And, like I said, with some of these other trades, like some players only got like second round picks, third round picks, even with some teams have the retained salary. I'm like, how is this guy not garnering a first round pick? That's just mind boggling, in my honest opinion, that some of these guys are just going for these cheap prices. Like some other players that were traded, like Jake Gensel, I believe, got a conditional first round pick or something like that. Tyler Toffoli, who was traded, didn't even get a first round pick, and his salary was retained. So there was a lot of weird trades out there that just probably didn't get the value of what the player was actually worth, and that was just weird. And maybe that also dictated what Danny was doing at this trade deadline as well. Maybe teams didn't really offer that much for Scotland. I have no idea. I have no idea what a team would have offered at the end of the day. I don't have those type of inside sources. I just don't. I don't. So I can just say at face value, maybe a team offered a first round pick and it just wasn't enough to wow Danny Briere. I don't know. I don't know what I can tell you, because I can't tell you anything, because I don't have that inside information, sadly. But moving on with the rest of the trade deadline, basically, like I said, rumors around basically the entirety of today was Flyers acquiring depth. Just adding some, maybe a depth forward, maybe a depth defenseman for this playoff push that they're doing. And that's exactly what they did. They make a trade with the Nashville Predators, one for one. They trade Wade Allison to Nashville for Denis Gurianov. And for Wade Allison, is what it is. Wasn't going to pan out here, and he definitely was not happy when he got sent down to Lehigh Valley earlier this season, so I'm sure there definitely was some hard feelings there with Wade Allison in the way that I guess he felt he was treated or something like that. But dude was made of glass. Regardless of the talent that he has, he just couldn't be able to stay healthy and stay on his feet. So trade him to Nashville. Good luck towards him, and see what he can do there in Nashville if he can find a way to stay healthy. And good for him if that's the case. You do get Denis Gurianov, which is a little bit intriguing. The Flyers were definitely rumored for Gurianov for the past couple of years at this point. Gurianov was a first-round pick of the Dallas Stars, I believe in the mid-2010s, like, 2015, 16, 17 or something like that there. He was a first-round pick, I believe, like a 12 overall or something like that. In 2019 with the Dallas Stars, definitely had a really good season there. Definitely put up some good numbers in the playoffs, and those were the bubble playoffs. And then basically from there just really fell off a cliff. Nothing really garnered there. He scored 20 goals that one season, had a really good playoff, and then just nothing really happened from there. And he's basically just been gone from the face of the earth, just being played down in the AHL. And that's basically what he's been doing with Dallas, and then he moved to Nashville, and that's basically what he's been doing with Nashville. But he was on Nashville's NHL roster at the time of the trade, and Danny Briere did say that they're going to try out Gurianov on the NHL roster when he gets here. So that's definitely going to be intriguing on that front. I'm not sure who they're going to take out of the lineup for Gurianov, whether that's Cam Atkinson, whether that's Bobby Brink or something like that. I have no idea. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what Torts does. Now, could you say Gurianov, I believe, is like 25, 26, 27, so he's still fairly young or something like that, whether you want to judge it on that front. Maybe you can do it as like a reclamation project or something like that, or because he does have speed, he does have an ability to put the puck into the net, which he really hasn't been able to do the past couple of years, but he has proven that he can do it that one season, so it's an intriguing thing. Maybe you pair him on a line with Ryan Poehling, and they both use their speed and they find a way to do their thing. So it's intriguing. It's just extra depth for your forward core, so no harm done there. The other trade that the Flyers did make was trading a 2024 fourth-round pick to the Buffalo Sabres for defenseman Erik Johnson. And Erik Johnson at this point in his career, yes, he's won a Stanley Cup. He's a veteran presence. Been in this league for a very long time. Really wasn't much of an impact with Buffalo. As he's getting older in his career, he's basically nothing at this point. He's basically what Mark Stahl is, just a depth defenseman, a 6th, 7th defenseman that you can basically interchange out of your lineup. A 4th-round pick, I know, granted, the 2024 draft is noted to not be a very deep draft. Probably would have given up a little bit of a later pick than for an Erik Johnson, but still, at the end of the day, a 4th-round pick I'm not going to cry over because Danny Briere did a good job of getting other picks for the upcoming drafts. So, like I said, I'm not going to cry over that. Once again, it's a depth defenseman for this push. I'm not sure how he's going to work with the lineup or anything like that because you did play Ronnie Attard and Ginning in the lineup the other night in Florida, and I believe both those guys played a really good game, and I do believe they both deserve another crack at being in the lineup again, whether that's in Tampa Bay or whether that's another time. But, not sure if it's like, they rest Mark Stahl, they put Johnson in there. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. But once again, it's just added depth. You can't hurt by adding depth at the end of the day when you're trying to push for a playoff point. And yeah, that's basically it at the end of the day with those trades. And yeah, definitely people got up in air why you're trading a 4th-round pick for Erik Johnson and all that stuff. It comes down back to the messaging. Some people are just confused about Danny Briere's messaging and all that stuff in terms of what he means by a rebuild and everything there. I do think the players in the locker room deserve some type of award because, say if you do trade a Scott Laughton, what does that do to the locker room? It kind of deflates the locker room because, we're playing really good, and you're trading one of our leaders. What the hell? It's definitely a conflicting point if you're Danny Briere to be in the position that you're in because say if the team wasn't overachieving and they were playing to the expectations that everyone had expected them to be, Danny Briere would probably make his job pretty easier to trade a lot of these guys off the roster. But now that they're not, they're clearly overachieving and they're in a playoff position. Granted, the Metropolitan Division probably is another reason why they're in the position to begin with. But I guess you do have to reward your players for the position that they got themselves into. And that's adding some depth to your roster to help push for the playoffs. Now, I don't know what that's going to mean at the end of the day. Yes, they got a very great win against the Florida Panthers. The Islanders are creeping up, though. They're still winning games. I believe they beat San Jose last night, so the point lead between the Flyers and the Islanders is back to 4 points. So that's going to go down to the wire basically as the rest of the season goes along. And yeah, I guess we'll just see what this team is made of. And that is that at the end of the day there in terms of that. And really, for the rest of this trade, like I said, I do believe overall it was a successful trade deadline for Danny Briere. I wouldn't give him an A or anything. If you're doing like a letter grade or anything like that, I maybe give him like a B. Maybe like a B grade for this trade deadline. If you found a way to trade Scott Laughton, I probably would say this would be an A minus type of trade deadline day. Just because I do believe the value of what Scott Laughton could have brought back to your team, especially in progressing the rebuild, would be a little bit too much to pass up on. But you still got a first-round pick for Sean Walker, and he was one of the only players to get a first-round pick in this trade deadline, so I guess that stands for some there as well. And you acquired some depth for your playoff push. So I can't be overly mad. I'm not really mad to begin with. Like, I don't hate what Danny Briere did. Not overall. So we'll just see where this team goes. I do believe that Danny Briere has a lot of things that he's planning to do for the offseason. I firmly believe that's going to be the case, whether that's some trades, some draft day trades. Maybe he maneuvers some of these draft picks that he's acquired and, either moving up in the draft or he uses some draft picks to go out and get a player. So we'll definitely see there. We'll definitely see there. It'll be cool to see if Danny Briere could go out in the offseason and get, a good player that could really progress this team into a different direction. That'll be cool to see on that standpoint. But like I said, in terms of the trades of where we left off last night was the Jake Gensel trade. So to fully recap that trade, it was Jake Gensel and Ty Smith, forward and the defenseman, to the Carolina Hurricanes, and return to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh gets Michael Bunting, Ville Kolvinen, Vasily Ponomarev, and Chris Lucius, and a conditional 2024 first-round pick and a conditional 2024 fifth-round pick. And I want to see the conditions on the first-round pick here. The first-round pick becomes Philadelphia's second-round pick if the Hurricanes do not reach the Stanley Cup final. And Pittsburgh only gets the fifth, and Carolina wins it all. Oh, that's interesting. So it'll become a second. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting in that fact. I wonder if that second-round pick was from the Tony DeAngelo trade, if I'm not wrong there. Other trades that happened, Evgeny Kuznetsov was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes for a third-round pick. I believe Washington retained salary on that as well. Tyler Toffoli, he was traded to the Winnipeg Jets for a third and a second-round pick, and I believe the Devils retained percentage on that salary as well at the same time. What else? Pat Maroon goes to Boston from the Minnesota Wild. Jason Zucker goes to Nashville. Who else? Jake Allen goes to New Jersey, so I guess they quote-unquote got a goaltender. I don't think it's clearly enough to get over the top there. What else? Matt Dumbler goes to Tampa Bay from Arizona. Jack Rieselvik goes to the Rangers. Tomas Hertl, and Vegas just continues to make trades because, my goodness, Vegas is crazy. So Tomas Hertl goes to Vegas, plus a 2025 third-round pick and a 2027 third-round pick as well, to San Jose. All right, well, let me reword this. Let me rephrase this. So San Jose is trading Tomas Hertl, a 2025 and a 2027 third-round pick, to Vegas for a 2025 first-round pick and David Edstrom, a center. And Colin Miller goes to the Winnipeg Jets from the Devils, and that's basically it. That is basically it there. But if we look at Vegas, because, my God, Vegas is crazy. My God, they get Noah Hanifin, they get Anthony Mantha, and what else? What else did they get? And they get Tomas Hertl. Like, seriously, Vegas just doesn't care. Vegas just does not care. They're going all in. They continue to go all in, and people just continue to hate it. People just continue to hate it, but their GM does not care. Their GM is focused on winning. If that was the Flyers case, no Flyers fan would care. No way in hell. No Flyers fan would care any way, shape, or form of what Vegas is doing if the Flyers were doing that. But, yeah, Vegas definitely went all in on this trade deadline. Florida made some moves, too. I believe they got Kyle Okposo from the Buffalo Sabres, but nothing really major in terms of Florida. It was really Vegas that made a lot of the big moves in this trade deadline. But, overall, like I said, can't really be mad. I don't think there's a reason to be mad. I think I should rephrase that. I shouldn't, I can't say I shouldn't be mad because I'm not mad at all. I think there's no reason to be mad is probably the proper way to say that. And yeah, like I said, probably give Danny Briere overall a letter grade of a B for this trade deadline. Awesome return for the Sean Walker deal. I'm more warming up to the Nick Seeler contract just because the salary just isn't terrible at all. It's not going to kill you. It's really just, if they traded Scott Lawton and got a good return for that really would have put it over the top, in my honest opinion. I really could care less about Guryanov, Wade Allison. That's just 1-for-1 there. And then I really can care less about a fourth-round pick because, it's not a deep draft, and you can always get a fourth-round pick back for something else. So I'm not really concerned on that front. You're just adding depth to the roster. You can't hurt by adding more depth and veteran presence there. And that's basically it. I know a lot of people were definitely questioning about the possibility of them going after a goaltender maybe in the waiver front, because there were some guys that were on the waiver front, specifically in Antti Ranta, that got waived by Carolina. And people were definitely questioning, should the Flyers maybe pick up Antti Ranta for free just because it can't hurt in that situation? Maybe a low-risk, high-reward type of move, bringing a veteran backup that could help out Sam Ersson. But the Flyers, decided not to pull on that trigger, and they're sticking with Ersson as the starter and Sandstrom as the backup, because Sandstrom definitely did earn his next start after his start against Ottawa. So I don't know when that next start for Sandstrom's going to be, but he definitely did earn his next start. He definitely looked confident in the net against Ottawa. So we'll see how that progresses as the schedule goes along towards the end of the season here. And we'll see how this Flyers team progresses. If they can find a way to retain this playoff spot that they're in and find a way to make the playoffs, that'll definitely be an exciting time there. And we'll see what else happens there because, the Islanders are definitely creeping up. They're very red hot as of late. So we'll just have to wait and see. They play tomorrow night against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Tampa Bay, I believe, got blown out by the Calgary Flames, so Tampa Bay's on a little bit of a skirt right here, so maybe the Flyers can take advantage of that. And it would be nice to get, 4 points out of this 2-game stretch in Florida. That would be very nice there. But, wait and see till tomorrow. That's all we can do at this point. So, yeah, that's going to do it for tonight, everybody. I appreciate you all joining here, as always, whenever you decide to tune into this. Don't forget to leave your comments and opinions down in the comment section down below, especially on this trade deadline, how you do think about what Danny Briere did. I would like to hear your thoughts down below. Also, don't forget to leave a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It does me a great deal of service. And use the code TTPSPORTS, $20 off your first purchase at SEATGEEK. Great deal. Don't pass it up. Thanks, guys, for joining tonight whenever you decide to, and I'll see you next time.